Okay, we will call the meeting to order. It is Tuesday, February 11th, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Minutes and reports received and filed.
January sheriff fees filed for 2020, and then I have the treasurer's January 2020 reconciliation report filed, and the auditor's January 2020 report filed.
Okay. Commissioner Committee liaison reports, upcoming meetings and events.
So we got a Home Builders Association board meeting this afternoon, planning commission meeting tonight. We have our Cole County Commissioners Association of Missouri training Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Solid Waste Management District Board meeting Wednesday, but I'll probably miss it. Home Builders Association General Membership meeting Wednesday night. Communities Thursday morning, and also the Clark Avenue meeting. I might attend the Clark Avenue meeting and miss the communities. So I don't know if y'all were going to either one of those. Cole County Chiefs meeting, I think Thursday night. I think we have our Renegades coffee Friday morning too.
Yeah, but we have to
Yeah.
we have to be there at 8 o'clock.
I've got in my notes here, radio slot.
No, we're not. I let John know
Okay.
because,
Okay, so we're good to go there.
Yeah.
We're good not to go.
yeah.
Chamber coffee's Friday morning too. Don't make that one. Hardball Saturday night. Jeff City Renegades trivia night Saturday night. Then Lincoln Day is Monday at Capitol Plaza. So I think that's about it.
I don't have anything else.
I have a bicentennial committee meeting today at 3. Traffic and safety at 8. I won't make it. I got a dental appointment. Thursday, the library is having a neighbors get together from 2 to 3, but I don't think I'll be back from Columbia. Chiefs meeting. Friday, after we get our certificates and stuff, there's a Tri-County Bicentennial meeting at the Katy Trailhead to see where we're gonna put the monument. Yeah, we're going to the Harp Ball. Sunday, my article's in the News Tribune. It's on the census. And I've got Lincoln Days too, so that's all I've got. Okay, let's move right ahead. Bids and contracts, Axon Enterprise, sole source advertising approval.
I just need approval to run the Axon Enterprises for their tasers and taser supplies in the paper. We've done it last year and previous years.
Last 5, 6, 7 years. Nobody else makes them.
Yeah, I don't have any questions or anything on it.
I'm fine.
Move that we run the sole source advertisement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
CNC Group, sole source advertising approval.
And this is just the approval to run the ad for the CNC group, just maintenance as needed. And we've done it for the past 2-3 years,
It's been since
longer than that.
Longer than that. They're the only ones that can work on the automation system over there. We're tied into
the CNC Group, sole source advertising.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Accurate Control, sole source advertising approval.
It's the same thing, I just need approval to run it for Accurate Controls for the security supplies for their upgrades.
We just have 1-year contracts on all this stuff,
It's just for 1 year, and then I'd run it in the paper.
right?
It's required.
Yeah, it's required.
But
If it's sole source, there's no contract. It's just providing everyone the possibility to object if there is an objection. So yes, it has to be done annually.
But why aren't we negotiating a multi-year contract with these groups? I mean, we're putting ourselves in a bad spot.
Accurate Controls is our security envelope for the jail.
I
So,
get that.
well, I mean, if you wanna go out to contract for somebody else, but, I mean, you're talking.
I didn't say that. I said, why aren't we negotiating a long-term deal? I mean, if there are, the same way with CNC Group and these others, why aren't we negotiating long-term instead of every year?
Well, I don't think we do. I think this last one was a 3-year agreement that you signed. Wasn't it last year when we added the doors? Wasn't it a 3-year agreement? 1 year, and we can approve it up to 3?
Right, but you're adding additional services that weren't under the original contract. That's why you're doing the sole source for this. Correct.
But could we do
No.
a single year and then with optional years following, so we don't have to keep advertising and redoing that every year? Or maybe negotiate a cheaper price to be into a longer term contract? I mean, that's kind of, I think that's
Right.
what you were saying, right?
I mean, yeah, if you're gonna advertise it every year and there's only one bidder, I mean, I know what I'd do. I'd stick it to you. So. Am I right?
Just because it's sole source this year doesn't mean there isn't going to be an additional company or someone next year. So I don't know that you're meeting that bid requirement by not doing. When you're saying I'm purchasing off the sole source contract, I'm only purchasing off their sole source for this particular item or this particular time frame. I don't know that you can go to them and say, oh, I want a 5-year contract because you're the only one that does it right now, but a year from now, there's another company that provides the same service or the same product. At that point, you haven't
But we,
done the bid process.
but we have all the hardware we'd have to switch out in order to do all this. Am I wrong?
In the circumstance of accurate controls, you are correct.
Same with the CNC. We
Yep.
have to switch, we don't have to switch everything out to go with somebody else.
And I don't think the bidding policy lets you go around it that way. You have to advertise for the maintenance on it. When we bought those pieces of, when we first installed it, they gave you like a 5-year, 6-year agreement. And then after that, then you gotta prove that there isn't somebody out there that can work on that yearly. But I would, unless Jill knows anything different about it than that we have to actually go to see if there is anybody out there yearly.
Well, can't you do a contract with options for renewal like we do?
Oh, we do. That's what we have. That's what we have right now.
But this is just a process to eliminate anybody
But we don't
else.
rebid stuff if we do
Yeah.
a renewal on other contracts. Sole source, you're saying we have to.
I don't know that
We're
we
not
have to.
rebidding.
You're not rebidding, but you're giving the vendor an opportunity to come forward if there is any.
Well, I swear, I'm gonna go along. I don't understand some of this anyway. So with Accurate Controls, there are, they have stuff in there that's proprietary to there, so nobody else can work on their stuff. So even if I wanted to bring in, if I wanted Greg to work on that, he would not have the ability to do that because there's proprietary software, there's proprietary things that they do. So once we go out to bid, and we did, we went out to bid with 1 year with a 3-year extension. I sort of see where you're coming from. I don't think that we need to do the sole source every year because we've already done that whenever we said we're gonna go with you for
And I
1 year
agree with-
versus 3.
with what-
And I know I'm not understanding that right. I can feel the burning sensation inside of my head.
But we have a contract to continue this right now with them.
Yes, yeah, the contract's there.
Okay,
So, but I agree with you. I don't fully comprehend the legalese, what's involved in this, because we went out to bid, nobody else can work on these. I mean, and I'm okay if at the end of this year, or in January or July, if you all want to see what else is out there to go out for bid, but to change the security envelope for my facility, you're talking at least, I would say at least $500,000, if not $1 million to do that, to change all of the
I
software.
wasn't talking about doing that
I
at all.
understand what you're
No.
saying. I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure.
I wasn't talking about doing that either, but at the same time, if the cost for them and their sole source prices becomes prohibitive, yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna look at that.
Oh, no, I agree with you.
And so, but I mean, as long as we have that system in our jail, we should have them under contract with a negotiated price to maintain it for whatever that term is.
Well, and we did, if you remember, Chris, this last time, there was some concerns. We did have a very lengthy conversation, and that's why they actually altered the contract this last time, because of that. So the system is working, but I don't understand I don't understand having to do the sole source every year. I don't understand that, but
Well,
I
I-
think you do, I
the
think
burning
you do.
sensation again from over here is hurting the side of my
yeah,
head.
do we need to run
Yeah.
the ad for sole source if we've already got a contract and they are sole source? I mean, it,
Is there really documentation that nobody else can touch that equipment but them?
Well, it's not even documentation on that. It's to be able, and somebody may be able to provide that sensor, but only Accurate Controls you can only hook it to their system. So even if I had another vendor come in and say, here's the parts, Accurate Controls would have to come in and do a separate. So, and I get what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. It's about the sensors themselves. Right, I understand what you're saying, so, yeah.
It's no different than the election equipment. You know, it's a certain vendor, but we sole source it too to make sure that all the ballots, all this other stuff that somebody else can't make that works in their system.
Right.
So, it's just, to me, sole source protects the county from any vendor saying, why didn't you?
And if somebody
why didn't you
thinks
give
they
us the
can do it,
opportunity?"
then we can bid it out. This
Right.
gives somebody the chance to be like, oh, actually, we can do this.
But I thought we were under contract.
What's that?
I said, I thought we had a contract.
Well, we do have a contract, but now the contract doesn't carry, and now what they were talking about is these sensors. The contract doesn't carry all those parts within there. That's what they're trying to make sure of. For instance, on the interview rooms, we were gonna go with a state vendor to do that, but the parts they were using, that wasn't part of the state contract. So we would have to go out to bid our sole source for each one of those. Am I right? Am I saying that right? Sort of? Okay, so I'm getting there. I'm sort of following along.
So the reason this is going to sole source at the moment is we're doing something to the system that wasn't originally in the agreement. So kind of like with the phone system, you know, every once in a while, there's a piece of equipment or something that needs to be replaced, but it still has to hook into their system. We're just covering ourselves because we're making that purchase without actually truly bidding it, because there's only one vendor or
Oh.
one person that can hook into it.
Because it's a new part.
It's a different service or
It's a new part.
equipment.
Okay.
Okay, I got
okay,
you.
okay.
That makes sense.
Not that I was wrong, but I agree with them.
And the ads are less than $20 a piece.
Right.
So it's not like it's a major $300 ad or something.
So, but, I mean, so we have a contract with the vendor to provide service on our system, right? And so, to me, this is a change order to the contract. It's not an additional service, it's a change, it's a repair, I mean, you're gonna try to bid something out that somebody else has proprietary rights to? I mean, that's what we're saying.
Well, it doesn't sound like they have proprietary rights if they're letting another vendor come in and use a different piece of equipment. They probably have stipulations of what that piece of equipment has to look like or how it can fit into their system.
So
I'd say if they would not let somebody else come in and work on their system and warranty their system. Is that right?
I would say that's probably right. They probably won't warranty the system.
Right.
But, I mean, so everyone understands, so we have a contract with Accurate Controls, and they subcontracted with a guy to work on the doors, with a company to work on the doors. So it's Accurate Controls that we're paying, which we have a
Right.
current contract with. So this is to pay for the parts that wasn't specifically laid out in the contract, but it's still under the maintenance contract.
So it's a subcontractor or supplier or whatever.
Through
Accurate Controls, right. To replace parts that are part of their system.
Part of the system, yes. So,
But I'm sorry, I just don't get it, so.
do you want us to go out to bid for those sensors then?
No,
No,
didn't say that, but I don't see why we need to run the sole source advertisement. So, I mean, it's their system. They need to do if they had to repair stuff on their system and it was part of the contract, they would buy the parts to do the repairs, correct?
Well, that's what they're wanting to do, yes. They're
Well,
wanting us to,
but if there was other things within their contract and they needed to repair it and they had to buy parts to do that, that would be something that they would just do as part of their system. So, anyway, you guys wanna approve it, it's fine, but something just don't add up here. So, we should have a long-term contract for all this stuff. And it should be parts plus a percentage, shouldn't have to do this. Because that system is gonna break, you're gonna need more sensors, you're gonna need other stuff, and we're gonna be right back here, we're gonna be doing the same stuff.
well, how about this? How about we go forward with the sole source, go ahead and put it in there, and then we can call in Accurate Controls, this other company, and then we can relook at the contract for next year to make sure it's all covered under there. I just don't wanna not do it and then come to find out we should have. $20 seems like pretty cheap
Yeah.
insurance.
I move we approve sole source for Accurate Control advertising.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Hey,
Okay, well, I don't see a treasurer here, I don't see, Donnie and them, do we have any, we have unfinished business, new business accounts payable review?
I'd ask for approval of accounts payable pending review.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second and final reading of budget adjustment number 1.
This is for $3,583.03. This is an insurance amount that we received on our vehicle at the EMS department. So I do need action today. So I'm gonna put that back in the budget. Copy of the check is attached.
I move that we sign court order number 1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna save capital improvements. Since John's sitting there, purchase of DVRs for jail.
Like I talked to you individually, this is what Brian recommended. This is the last 2 DVRs that we have not replaced from Brewster Alexander.
And was it 7,000 something? It's funny though, his cruise,
It's like $7,200.
his cruise was 7,000.
I don't know, there's a
No.
little weird.
So there's 2 of them, I don't have any information on this other than purchase of DVRs for jail.
Brian had sent us,
They're buying them off state contract.
yeah, had sent us the breakdown and said he recommended them. And he told me he'd bring me back a T-shirt too.
I did, yeah.
Forward it to you, or you want me to
No,
print
I
it
got
out?
it here.
Okay.
So it was a total of $7,000.
Yeah, 7 and some change.
I move we approve the purchase of the DVRs.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The EMS pay scale, Kristen had said we need to,
I think Matt
There you
sent
go,
this
Debbie.
to you all. When you changed the deputy chief's salary, it did not fall on the current pay scale, so he needs to propose a new one. He sent it to you. My only question is that he now falls on a step that doesn't coincide with his years of service. So what is the rule for moving to the next step? And then I need you to approve this if you're in agreement. I'm like, that's not the same.
I'm okay with moving him up right now, just, but,
I wasn't necessarily changing the grid right now, it's just gonna, we can do that at budget time if we need to. I was just looking at, I can't find the email anyway, but, yeah, I had. We didn't change any of the other grids when we changed other people's pay, so.
Well, the salary that you approved didn't fall on the grid at all. So I needed a grid that had the salary on it. This is the old one.
So then how did we do this without naming names with the prior deputy if we didn't do this then? I mean, I guess I'm not understanding why.
We didn't have an approved scale until the budget this year. So in December, you approved that first scale.
Did we have a scale last year?
No, not for the deputy chief. For
Not for the
paramedic,
deputy chief at all?
Yeah, no. So we
Okay,
just
so-
approved that scale in the budget.
So we're just need to adjust the deputy chief one. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, that's why it's different. Did you see them
yeah,
again?
I looked at that this morning after I talked to,
I'm still cleaning up emails from vacation, so I apologize, I can't find it right now. I remember seeing it, I didn't know what we were doing, what was different than the other ones when we made adjustments, so if there wasn't one deputy chief pay chart, then I guess we got adjusted. So, I'm good with it.
I am too.
I don't know, I can't find it, should be being deleted.
So what are we adjusting it to, I think is the,
The proposed.
His proposed one is up there.
But in approving that one, that's proposed,
So yes, what is the rule going forward for when you make that next step? Because currently it's based on hire date or promotion date, what step you're on. He's currently going to be steps above where he currently is based on that date, so does he move to the next step on his anniversary date, no matter what step he's on? Or does he have to wait till his years of service catch up with his salary to move to the next step?
Yeah, I think at the time, we were just adjusting it kind of for this year, so, I don't know.
So yes, first I need you to approve a new pay scale. And then I just need you to tell me what the rule is for moving up the pay scale if you're not on the step you're supposed to be.
We've moved other people around, so what are we doing for them? I don't see it any different.
They're on the scale.
No, they're not. There have been others that have been changed since our grid. Last year, as soon as it got changed, we had things changed a month later. So.
If that calls for a change in the grid, then the grid got
No, it
changed.
did not. It absolutely did not. It was, they were moved within their own grid, so. We can discuss that later on.
Yeah, can we just?
I'm fine with approving the grid right now. Because it wasn't 30 days after we approved the budget and the new salary grid that things came in and changed. So whatever we were doing with them, I don't know why this is any different than anything else.
Well, they're the only ones that currently have steps that change, and we just changed it to anniversary date. So I just need to know what rules apply, because he's going to meet an anniversary date after this change.
Okay, well, we'll look at that. Because I don't know what his anniversary date and all that stuff is. We'll take a look at it.
Yeah, can we just approve the increase for right now and then come back to this?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. And that's what I would recommend.
I move that we approve the proposed pay chart for the deputy chief position for
Second.
EMS.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So
Okay.
give that copy to Lynn. So she
Okay.
has it.
Okay, since we're jumping around, I see our illustrious treasurer here. We will,
Our lucky moment.
yes.
Thanks, sir.
We have, looks to be about 5 million, that's maturing, Board of Compass with the collector, to talk about today. So I'll start with our bragging first, of course, which is that first sheet that you have, which shows the matured treasuries beginning when we all worked together a year before. We hit the $100,000 mark, as opposed to if we had left it in, our demand deposits and earned the interest that our depository contract calls for, which is, just as a reminder, any money under 30 million earns the 3-month treasury rate plus 16 basis points. 30 to 34 million in deposits earns the 3-month treasury minus 15 basis points. And anything over 34, which is really the money that concerns all of us today, earns just the overnight rate, which right now, it has been for a long time, 0.25, so 25 basis points. So that's just kind of a snapshot of how we got to how our ladder portfolio approach is working, which I would think most of us would agree it's working well. Thank you all for helping and cooperating. Second, I'll let Mark go through his, let him deconstruct his analysis of how we reached the 5 million today that we think we have to invest.
Okay, yeah, the sheet, estimate of available funds to invest. This is, I normally do try and do a 30-day projection, see project what's kind of our cash flow in the next 30 days. So we start there with the cash that's in the bank under this office's control. We add the cash in the bank that's in other officials' accounts, like sheriff's accounts, that we don't have daily control of, but those amounts are included in our investment, our interest calculation, so we need to add those in. And then I normally put in what's the biggest chunk of revenue that comes in the next 30 days, which the $2 million, which we should receive in early March for our sales tax. And then those next three figures are all investments that are maturing in February. We've got $1 million in a treasury note, a longer-term investment that's maturing on the 15th. We've got another $1 million and another treasury note that's maturing on the 29th. And then in January, we after we receive the collector's about $6.5 million that we got from the collector, you know, his big turnover to us from the December property taxes, we got about $6.5 million. So we turned around and invested $4.5 million of that in a 30-day note, which matures just in a couple of days on the 13th. So with all that cash in the bank and the maturing investments, total cash available for the next 30 days should be about about 41.6 million. Then in 30 days, we'll do like 2 payrolls and 2 check runs. So I take out about 1.3 million for each of those. So that gets us down to the 39 million estimated cash available for investment purposes. Our targeted cash balance of 34 million. So today my best estimate is that we can invest an additional 5 million as of today or in February in the next week or two. So.
Any questions?
You said an additional 5 million?
Well, that's after all these that are maturing in February.
Right.
So
let's turn to the next sheet, the investments at 1/31/2020. Chris, that'll help
Right. Yeah.
delineate here. So I'll just start at the top, and let's work through the maturity date column. I think that's the
Right.
best way, instead of looking at par value or anything else, funds, that sort of thing. Maturity date has the first two, June 30 and August 15. Those maturity dates obviously are a little later in the year, and we're going to come back to you all between now and then. The third one, February the 13th, is part of that collector turnover, which is maturing here in the next day or two. And then we have, in the law enforcement, the maturity date of 2/15. That million we are going to recommend that be a reinvestment of a year's time. That's the first recommendation. And feel free to interrupt me as I go through these, but I think this is the best way at first blush to do this. Maturity date of 5/21, Obviously, we're gonna come back before May 21st and cover May 21st, August 15th, and June 30th maturities. We'll come back at a later date and handle those. The next one is February 13, also is part of the treasurer's turnover, which is, these are, excuse me?
Collector's turnover.
What did I say?
I think you said treasurer.
I didn't turn over squat, so. Let's see, and then down at the bottom, February 29, we're gonna recommend that out of the health insurance fund be a reinvestment also for 2 years, that $1 million. So that's kind of a snapshot. We're kind of confused about how the best way to present it. I thought of it in terms of maturity, because the whole point of this committee when we first got together was to put together a laddered portfolio based on not dollar amount so much as duration. And you all had originally, you all liked the idea, as did we, of a 1.5, and 2 year mix of treasuries. And so if you look at those maturity dates, we don't have anything going beyond August of this year. So the portfolio is now, is loaded on the front end. And maybe now's a good time to turn to the last sheet, which is today's printout from the U.S. Treasury Department of the interests, the yield on various treasuries. And I think the best way to look at this is if you look at the bottom row for February the 10th, the yield today is 1.58. And as you move across the bottom of that row, go out to a year and see how it drops. The yield curve is what they call flattened. It's flattened, obtusely. You'd think that, well, it's not obtusely, but it's obtuse. What's happened is the rates typically, if you go out a year, you assume that they're going to be higher, right? In this case, because of, the market is reflecting what they think is going to happen in the future. That's what these charts are all about. And so they're saying in a year, it's 1.45. 2 years, 1.37. 3 years, 1.36. You have to go out to a 10-year treasury to collect, if you hold it to maturity, what you could earn now on a 30-day. And so two things, strike me, and we've talked about this before. It seems counterintuitive to go out 1 or 2 years and get a lower yield than you could get today. Why would you do that? And of course the answer is because the market is trying to tell themselves and investors that rates are expected to be lower as you go out in time for various reasons, whether it's, the trade friction between the United States and China, whether it's headwinds in the economy, or whatever. So what's that?
The election?
Yes, the election. That would be a good one to throw in the mix. Anyway, but despite that, I'm hoping you all are still on board with the idea of going out, grabbing some 30 days, front end it with maybe, we're going to recommend, out of the $5 million, we're going to recommend $2 million in 30 day and capture the higher yield up front, but stay faithful to the idea of spreading your risk over time. The whole, concept embedded in the ladder portfolio. Go out a year with $1 million, go out 1.5 years with $1 million, and go out 2 years with $1 million. And we believe that reflects kind of the spirit of what we all embarked on a year before, at the same time that we, capture some good 30-day yields at the same time that we spread our risk over the 1.5, and 2 year duration. Does that all make sense to you all? Any questions?
So if we could go down that third sheet again,
Yeah.
Obviously we have $3 million coming mature on the 13th of February, and what's the recommendation for that $3 million?
We're hold on just a second. as I've got here. If you look further down, hold on just a second. If you look down to the other 213 under law enforcement, that's 1.5. That 3 that you mentioned and the 1.5, that's the 4.5 that we parked, right, that we got from the collector. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's what we invested, 4.5 in January in 30 days. In a 30, or 2 different 30 days, so.
And then another one here, I'm sorry, down here we have the, no, that's a different one. That's a reinvest. Sorry, go ahead, Chris, sorry.
So, yeah, I get where you're coming up with the 4.5.
Got it, okay.
I'm trying to go down the sheet. So there's 3 million that is coming mature on
Uh-huh.
213.
Yeah.
What's the recommendation for that 3 million?
2 million of that going into a 30-day treasury.
Okay?
The other million, Mark, what,
Year and a half.
right, excuse me, the other
So
million.
2 million
out of-
into 30-day and then 1 million into a year and a half.
Exactly, right.
Okay? And
Work
then-
on down.
And then you had that, the first, the maturity of 215, that million, you said that was gonna go out a year.
Right,
And then the maturity, down under that of 213, where's that 1.5 going?
That probably needs to stay, that'll stay in the bank to
Okay.
cover, to get our,
So your 6.5 you had invested right now is gonna go down to 5.
right. So out of the, right, exactly. 6.5 that matures in the next 2 weeks, we want to reinvest 5 of that. So 1.5 million will stay in the bank.
And we may juggle around what funds we do the longer term investments as well.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the health insurance fund, instead of reinvesting $1 million, we could possibly go to $1.5 million in that fund, since it's pretty stable as far as expenses at the moment. So we may adjust around those longer term investments into the funds we know can handle it for the longer term. So like general, we may bump down to a 1 year, law enforcement 1.5, health insurance 2.
yeah, we hadn't talked to the auditor about which fund. I think we all agreed that the amount was on point, the total amount, which actually, as Mark just pointed out, is less than what we have invested now, so. So I guess, Chris, to go back to what you're saying, we're not exactly sure, not having talked to the auditor, what's gonna go exactly where. Am I correct to say that?
Right.
Right.
So we're taking 6 million of investments and going down to 5 million in investments, basically.
6.5 down to 5.
Half.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Mark and I thought that, you know, obviously if there was a 2-year treasury out of the health insurance fund, that when that matured, it would be an easy decision to just, you know, reinvest it at the same duration. And we were unaware that the auditor might have a different view of that. And it's easy enough to accommodate that if we can all agree today, you know, generally that we have 5 million to invest and that we're gonna do the ladder portfolio in a 30-day, 1.5, and 2 year. If it's okay with you, we'll work out the details with the auditor and with the finance officer, if that's all right.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
I'd kind of like to see where the funds are coming from and what the reserves look like.
Well, this is what we'll do, since you want that, is we'll talk to Kristen after the meeting. As soon as she lets us know, you know, what she thinks is the best mix of durations out of which funds, then I will pair that with, I mean, we've got a purchase ready with the trading desk at Central Bank, so if you, we'll send you that if you'll green light it the first moment you can, we can make that purchase today.
Yeah, I'd just like to know kind of where we were at, where we're going forward, and what that looks like with the mix.
Well, I think you, go ahead.
Actually, we probably need to wait until we get the 4.5 million back in 2 days before we repurchase more.
Right, we got quotes today, but.
Yeah, we
right,
can't,
yeah,
really-
that's
we
right.
probably better, yeah, we should,
Got it.
we should do the purchase in
Right.
2 days, so we
Right.
got a little time.
I mean, really, it sounds like what we're talking about is $500,000 or as much as $1 million difference between what you see on your sheet there, right?
Right.
Maybe a little more in health, maybe a little less in law
Well,
enforcement.
So my thoughts, just glancing, is 1.5 in the health insurance fund for 2 years.
And what's the fund balance of the health insurance fund right now?
Mark shows 2.9 at the moment, so that leaves us a decent amount in there. And then $1 million in law enforcement fund for 1.5 to replace the one that's maturing. And then possibly $1 million in general fund for a year, and then the rest in 30 days.
Yeah.
Sounds good to us.
Mhm.
Do you all have any more questions?
No.
Okay, we'll send you that email. We'll send it to all the commissioners, and
It's fine.
we'll wait to hear back from you before I let the trading desk know.
Yeah, that's
Sound
fine.
good?
Yep.
Okay.
We're
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Covered everything. I see Downey roaming around outside. We're gonna save the discussion of capital improvements list for the end. So Richard and
Yes, sir.
Come to the table if you want.
did the ham and beans help your,
I won't say what it helped.
Just advice that it helped.
Thanks, sir. 2 copies.
Yeah, coming back the other direction.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you take mine? Second one was yours, good?
If you don't mind, I'll stay. It's easier
It's fine.
on me If you guys
Yeah.
don't mind. What I basically gave you is the 2019 jail and PTS report. The first one is the breakdown by month of the pretrial and jail report. Not a lot of difference. There is some increases in the daily population and the 7 a.m. population. The other one I think you'll see is the bookings and the reduction in the bookings. I think that can be attributed to a couple things. I think one is the reduction in the amount of failure to appear warrants that have been issued by the courts by re-engaging people and by getting notification to them. I think the other thing is through the Cole County Criminal Justice Committee, Sheriff Wheeler and Chief Schrader implemented some summons issues where summonses could be issued as opposed to bringing people to jail. And I think that helped to reduce that population. We don't really have any, other than this information, and it's only a year view of it, but I do think if you look at the daily number and the number of people booked in, you can see a decrease as it's been going through. The out-of-county holds, pretty normal. I mean, it's not a big influx in that. The federal holds, you see, in January we had 77 last year, and in December we had 47. So significant reduction towards the end of the year, and I really can't tell you what that's about, other than you can see it just shows up. The average was still 63, and when we go to the next report, you'll see that. Pretrial releases, significant increase. The numbers I want to draw your attention to is the average per month, 17 per month, significant increase, and you'll see that when we look at the next report that I do. The number of terminations, 6.6. That's why we have a big backup in the pretrial program, is we're not getting people out of pretrial. A lot of that, I think, can be attributed to a couple things, but I think the major issue is the public defender system and the at least 6-month backlog to getting attorneys assigned to clients in the public defender system. I think what has occurred is pretrial has absorbed the population as opposed to the jail. Because of the pretrial program, instead of them sitting in jail and driving up your jail population, what we've driven up is the pretrial release population. And I think if you look at a cost assessment of that, it's certainly cheaper to have them on pretrial as long as they're behaving and doing what they're supposed to do in the community under supervision. The daily average of pretrial, you can see a significant increase, January 105 and in December 150. So in a year, we've increased our population and it's still growing. In January, as we were going through and the implementation of trying to reduce the pretrial population so we could get it at a management level where we could supervise people. Certainly one of our biggest issues is our community safety. And if we have people out on supervision, it's imperative that we supervise them. What we've discovered is that with the increase of the number of people that we have on the program and the staffing we have, we're unable to supervise that many people. So I talked with the judges, and so we are now in the process of reducing the pretrial supervision. We took it to the Criminal Justice Committee, we talked with them, and we've adopted a couple things that we're trying to work at on reducing this population. Basically, since January 1st, we've reduced pretrial from 160 to 135. So we've taken approximately 25 people off the program. Several ways that we've done it. One of them is people just coming off through their cases being terminated. Other ones are being taken off by the court at our request, people that have been in the program for a while, and although their case has not been adjudicated, they do have a final disposition, and they have been doing well in the program. We don't know what the fallout of that will be. What we're going to do is try to track the people that we've taken off and see if they maintain what they've been doing in the pretrial system with the supervision. So that's one issue we're going to look at and try to keep track of so we can see what the effect of it is. The largest thing we have done is we have taken people that normally we probably would have put on pretrial, and we're doing a bond reduction. The bond reduction, the judges are reducing the bonds on these individuals to either a point where they can make the bond or an ROR bond to get them out of jail. That's the method they're using to get out of jail. These people are not being supervised. They are just being released from jail. And so our concern is, and what we're going to do is track those people and see how they do without supervision other than a bondsman, or in some cases we are releasing people back to probation and parole. Basically what we have right now is we have, since the first of the year, we have had released 17 people on bond reductions and 3 people on pretrial release. So we actually have taken on 3 people that the courts have asked us to take on because of wanting to ensure public safety. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And I kind of wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're doing. We have gotten with probation and parole. And probation and parole, a lot of the people that we supervise may have pending probation and parole cases. So basically we have taken those people, and the judges have agreed to release them on a bond with conditions that go to probation and parole. those conditions can be enforced by probation and parole, just like pretrial could enforce those conditions. So if someone, say, is on probation and parole supervision, they violate a bond condition, a probation officer can submit a report to the court on that bond condition violation, and the court can revoke that bond. So we're trying to think outside the box here of what normal rules are, or normal silos that we all stay in, and trying to expand it to cover this issue. Because the number one thing here for us folks is making sure we have people out there that we are supervising. I think the key to the success in this program has been supervision. Releasing these people, knowing that there's people involved, watching them, knowing we have a close relationship with law enforcement, and receive daily reports from the police department on people they have contact with in the program. That's something that never occurred before. With bondsmen, police officers would go out, they would come in contact with them, and there was no method or way to relay that information to the court. Now, through the pretrial program and through probation and parole, that information of contact out on the streets with these people can be given to the court for their consideration on these bond conditions and revoking that bond, which I think is a key element in the supervision and making our community safer with these people out in our community that may be on bond release. The other thing I'd like to talk just a few minutes about is the people that are on the pretrial release program. Right now, we have 10 people on furlough out of the jail that are in either mental health or treatment court, or treatment programs. Those are people that would be in jail that have either a drug addiction issue or have mental health issues that we literally have in a treatment program with a mental health or drug treatment provider. We also have people that are on pretrial release supervision, people that we're supervising. We have 10 of those that are in treatment around the state, and those are year-long treatment programs. Those are people that are in treatment, that are going through and no longer having contact with police here. They're going through a treatment program. We've had real good success. A lot of these people are no longer in our communities, they're in other locations. Which gets us to the point I'm coming to is I'm losing Randy Cole April 1st. That is a guy that probably generates 70% of my reports. He's irreplaceable, but I have to replace him. If I wait till he leaves and try to replace him, I have reduced my staff by a third. I can't catch up, I can't keep up. What I'm saying basically is I need to get somebody in, get them trained, so when he leaves, there's the least amount of effect on the program as we can have. The other thing is I will be taking some medical leave myself, and it could be up to 4 months. So that will leave one full-time person, one person just coming on to train, and 2 part-time people for the program. I can tell you we will have to reduce the number down to approximately 50.
Do you have somebody in to take Randy's job? I mean, is there a candidate out there that?
Well, there are people out there, I'm sure, that would be interested in the job.
Okay.
What I will tell you is I don't know what I'm going to draw with the salary. I mean, that's the bottom line here. This is, and I'm going to brag on these guys. You got to understand what you've got here. You got a guy that ran the fire marshal's office and was on, worked in the governor's cabinet. So you don't get that quality of person walking in off the streets. I can't hire Randy Cole. What I have to try to draw is somebody either from probation and parole. I mean, that's kind of the natural fill for this type of position. Or someone with some court or law enforcement experience that is willing to come in.
It has to have a different train of thought.
I mean, in the law enforcement field, like a lot of fields, it's broad. And what may make a good investigator may not make a good traffic officer. What may make a good traffic officer may not make a good investigator. This job is very specific in and of. You have to have experience with the court system, you have to have experience with probation and parole, and you have to have experience with law enforcement. So, I mean, you're spanning basically the whole criminal justice system in who you deal with. And so trying to draw somebody in there and get them into this position is going to be a challenge to get the right type of person who I can bring in and get on and get moving with this quickly.
Have we posted it with our, because I mean, you need to bring somebody in probably the 1st of March to work with Randy for at least a month. That's what we're doing, with Bill Farr and,
Yeah, I mean,
We on the job description, get,
okay,
all done, and then we're gonna.
okay.
the other thing I'm gonna tell you is even bringing that individual on as quickly as we can, you're still at a loss. The minute I walk out of there, and depending on how long it is, they're gonna be scrambling. And I can tell you, if you don't bring somebody else on with him and train 2 people, this program will reverse itself and you will see an increase.
So your part-time person that we've got, can we move him up?
No,
No, okay,
neither one of the part-time people are interested.
okay.
I've already ran that trap. So that's where I'm at, guys. I wanted to tell you, where we're at, what's going on, and the situation that we're facing. Certainly your choice, but in order to make it to where, when I leave, in order to make it to where Butch and Mary Ann and whoever we hire come on, in that situation, we're gonna have to reduce the number significantly.
Richard, can you talk a little bit about the out-of-county holds? I mean, what is that? And how come that number's gone up by 23 just in 19?
Out-of-county holds, and John, certainly you can speak to this too, out-of-county holds is kind of unpredictable. They're people that, I think some are people that John has taken in for other counties, maybe the whole, but that's a very small number. Most of them are people that are arrested, that have out-of-county warrants, that get arrested here, and you're holding them until that other county comes and picks them up. Now that number of 63, that's not a daily number. Your daily number would be significantly smaller, probably 5, 6, John, maybe a little bit more.
Not including the federal prisoners, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a separate number from the federal prisoners. But that number, that 63, is for the whole month. So that's not a significant number. Now, your number that you have for the feds, that's more of a consistent daily number.
How come that number's dropped by 30 in 2019?
Can't tell you. I mean, it may be part of it is managing his population. If you have to have more county beds, you can't have as many federal prisoners. Or it may be the federal, the Fed's not sending as many. I mean, John may have a better idea on that.
So if you reduce the number of people on pretrial release, does that affect the jail population?
Well, the long run, yeah, it probably will. I mean, you can try to absorb some of it with the bond reductions. But there again, what you're losing is that supervision piece of people in your community. And so we can go back, and I can tell you when I first came here, if you looked at bonds, every bond was 100 or 150,000. and people were getting out. They were paying pennies on the dollar to bondsmen. Now, if you look at our bonds, a high bond is 15,000. We have brought all of that back in line through this program. And I think a part of that is because there is another alternative. And if you look at the number of bondsmen writing bonds in our county, significantly less.
We only got about 5 or 7 actually writing bonds now. At one time, we had 137.
Yeah, that's what,
Well, there was 130, yeah, registered. There's still 122, I think, or something.
so if you're gone for 4 months, well, you really can't bring somebody in just for 4 months while you're gone.
Well, the question is who and where.
I
you
know,
get it.
well, that's what I'm concerned about that too.
Did y'all have a specific request, or you're just wanting some ideas, or?
Well, I think it goes back to, it depends on what you want. If you want this program to continue operating at the level you're operating at, you're gonna have to hire 2 people. If you wanna reduce the numbers and you want us to try to manage it other ways, then you hire 1 person. The other thing is that I'm gonna tell you is you probably at the most have about a year left with 2 of us. So you're gonna be training our replacements. Now, the question is, how well do you want them trained? And
What quality employee do you want? We did good picking what we've had so far. What you have to understand is, if one goes bad, it's not falling on you, it's falling on the judge and falling on us. I'd rather have a better quality employee, that when we leave here, that this is actually covered. This employee has to get the trust of the judges, and they have to understand what they write is true and they accept it. And that's what we have to have. We've got to find the right people, plug in the right places. We've been really lucky, thank God that we've got these guys here now. But you can't plug just everybody in this position. I'm not even qualified to work in that division. So,
So if we replace Randy, can we do another part-time person? I'm just trying to figure out what,
my thing, and I haven't talked to Richard about it, if I was gonna try to hire somebody now, I'd like to hire somebody now to fill Randy's spot.
yeah.
But also
yeah.
be good enough to do his spot when he leaves. That way he has a year with these guys before he leaves. That way the sheriff's department, the jail know who they're dealing with and what's going on. Then look for another part-timer, but that's.
here's what I would tell you guys. In law enforcement, and you gotta remember, we do this 24/7. All of us do this 24/7. One of us has a phone every night. So when one of us is down, that's a third of my staff. There is no extra here. So if somebody's sick, if somebody's down, I got nobody I can play. There's no next man up. And that type of program, what we're running right now, and you trying to plug people into that, guess what? Probation and parole doesn't even install their own equipment for electronic monitoring. They don't even, there's nobody trained to do that around here besides us. There's nobody that runs a 24/7 program. Now, we have done it for you, for this purpose, because we believe in it. You're gonna have to hire people to run this program. You're not gonna get us. My suggestion to you is, and this is it, get people in place that we can train, and then start evolving this program into what it's gonna be underneath those people. Because what you have right now, you're not gonna have it. The minute we walk out the door, I can't bring Bush Shipley in that's got 10 years of electronic monitoring. experience. They're not out there.
Or yourself that's been in law enforcement your entire career and this is your second career, or.
Him and
or
I
Ra-
spent the best part of our careers in this county.
Or Randy Cole, or Gary Kempker, or, I mean,
Rusty
we got the,
Benton.
yeah, Rusty Bim Bim, we got the best of the best.
I'm just saying,
So-
we need to train who's coming in.
If you wanna keep the quality, when you all went to your commissioning meeting, you said yourself, Sam, that you were proud of what was done here.
Mhm.
They were way more advanced than everybody else. We wanna keep it that way when they're gone. And I gotta make sure the judges are covered, so we need the best people we can find.
Yeah, I agree.
So you're wanting to add staff in
In
though.
Greene County, the biggest issue in Greene County, they've had a program down here when we started off. But they have their judges don't trust them. So they don't release them out on this pretrial release program because they don't trust the reports and the staff down there. That is the key ingredient. The minute I lose these judges' confidence in what we're doing, they won't put them on the program, because guess what? Their name's on that line to release that individual. And that's their livelihood. So these people have a lot of trust in what we do, and if we lose that, you're gonna lose the ability of getting people out of jail.
So you know you're losing one on April 1st, correct?
That's correct.
He's gone.
Okay, and we've done this before, we overlap, we allow extra salary just for that, for things we see coming up, either retirements or maternity leave. So that's an easy one. You just get some money, we overlap that. Now, when you're gone for your 4 months, I mean, every department has that same issue. I
But
mean, you
are
got
they
the health
this
department.
small?
If you have a health department and you got one of their nurses is all of a sudden gets sick or loses a loved one and has to be out for a couple of months or whatever, I mean, you just gotta pick yourself up by the bootstraps, which is probably physically impossible, but, I mean, you
Well, I'm
still
just telling
gotta.
you, Jeff, we can do it, but the significance is the reduction.
But I hear you saying you need 2 additional people and we need to be training them now, in
Yeah.
addition to what you have,
That's what
right?
I'm saying. Yeah.
So-
Because they're gonna be out for a while. And Jeff, the decision we're making here is gonna affect the poor jailer down in that jail that's just started. And I think it's what you guys understand. I'm the only one in this room that's worked in that jail and ran a jail. These guys get sued because we have people in jail that shouldn't be in there, that's got mental problems, everything else. So what decision we make right here now is gonna affect those poor guys downstairs, if they're gonna work 6 days a week and 12 hours a day, or we're gonna be able to help them out some. At the end of the day, this is what this is gonna help. You come to work and you get sued because you don't have enough manpower to help you. So at some point, we are in bed together. And I can understand what those guys feel. You're making a low salary to begin with. You come here and stay 12 hours with some people you really don't want to be with. But we can sit here and say we're filling over $15,000 or $20,000. But at the end of the day, you're gonna pay that attorney to fight the lawsuit. I'm just being honest, it's just me talking, because I sat there with these guys, and I've worked with them for 6 or 7 years. I didn't work just 2 days in a jail. When you find out, you go over and sit there and work with them for a year, Jeff, it might think differently. Because those poor guys work their ass off down in that jail, and every day they suffer.
I know, I don't ever work my ass off.
Well, I'm saying, you need to go down and work with them, you'll find out what they're doing. These guys here.
I understand that, I mean, we got
Well,
that across the county.
my thing is, you're gonna pay the attorney here now or pay the lawsuit later. That's the 2 thoughts you've gotta think about. I'd much rather pay it up front. The wise sheriff told me when I first got in law enforcement, you pay it up front or you pay it on the end.
I'm gonna pay a
Here-
lawsuit
well,
because somebody's in jail instead of on pretrial release.
Well, no, it could be hurt, they could have some kind of mental problem,
We're gonna probably have the same number of people in that jail either way.
but the problem is, what type of person you gonna have in the jail? The people you've got in here now, since you started this program, are
Maybe
bad people.
we should have them fill out applications to go to our jail and make sure we just get the good ones.
I know we're not on the same train of thought because you never actually did the job.
Jeff, here's the deal. The way, his population now, he's controlling it because he can take the number of federal prisoners he wants. If these are county inmates that you're taking in, you don't control that. Those are inmates you have to take.
You guys are trying to control that right now, though, with the
What?
pretrial release, and the judges have been able to control it somewhat too with the bail reduction or the R&R. So, I mean, there's different ways to do it. we could pay private attorneys and if they can't afford their attorney, they can't afford a public defender, let's pay attorneys and get it through the
And
system.
I tell you what, that'd be a great
So-
idea.
That'd be the
I would
best thing to do.
suggest you do it. I mean, honestly.
Well,
if you
Judge
wanna cut
Beadham
costs-
has been sending some emails on.
Yeah, if you wanna cut the
Uh,
cost, that's exactly
That's the
what I
best
would
thing to do.
So, I mean, there's other ways to reduce the population, and
I agree, and let me tell you, if
I've-
you did that, if you hired attorneys for these guys, and we could triage these cases and get them through the system faster, it would make my job much easier. Instead of supervising somebody for 365 days, I supervise them for 120. That's easy.
well, and I want you guys supervising them too. I want y'all doing your job. I'm not picking on the program, but y'all, I mean, at budget time, we talked about additional people, and now here we are again talking about it. So, I understand with somebody leaving, yeah, we need to have some overlap for training. With you being gone for 4 months, I mean, it's a little different, because then you've gotta train somebody, but then they're just gonna be a temporary employee, or what are we gonna do with them?
Well,
And
that's my
I'd rather
point.
see our
Bringing somebody
part-timers
in
step up.
temporary is not a solution to the problem, because in a year, we're gone. You need to think about a year down the road and what training we can give them, how they see the program working. This thing is all gonna change when we walk out the door. You may have to make a decision on whether you hire people to do the monitoring, as opposed to doing it yourself, because if you don't have people there trained to do monitor, or they're not willing to do 24/7 like we are, then you may have to hire out somebody to do your monitoring if you're gonna continue that program. I mean, these are all questions that are gonna come up to you. I'm just trying to say, now's the time to take the steps if you want to continue what you have. If you don't, and you wanna go a different route, then we're gonna start reducing that number down, so that when I do leave, that we can supervise that population out there in the community safe.
But you're jumping from the 4-month time that you're gone to when you retire, and that's totally different. When you get ready to retire, I mean, you could up and leave, or if we know you're retiring, we couldn't bring somebody in ahead of time, train them. I mean, even if we have to do it for a month, we see it coming.
Okay.
So,
And
I
if
think
you
mine
think
right
that's
now.
gonna be sufficient, then that's your decision, Jeff. I'm just telling you, you're gonna need more than that.
I think my concern right now more is when you leave for the 4-month time period and how to address that one, because that's we can't just bring somebody in off the street and say, here, answer phones. So,
No.
I have no answer for that.
I would like to see what kind of applicants we get, and if we get 2 rocket stars or something. I want to see that program continue to operate, and we lead the state. And yeah, I don't want to go back.
Well, I mean, we've got it, I think, the wording, we've got the wording, we've kind of been back and forth by email, I haven't really talked, but, I mean, I want you to be aware of this. I know that this is something that's gonna be coming up, it's something that you guys are gonna face, and so I'm trying to give you that heads up. How you approach it, how you wanna deal with it, we're gonna do whatever we have to do it. But I have to be realistic on what I think the staff and what we can do.
The whole thing hinges on the integrity of the program. If we lose that integrity, we lose the law enforcement's backing on top of it. And it took a long time to get the law enforcement actually to work with us on that. Because this is something we weren't trained or went into law enforcement for, correct?
Chief Schrader offered, if they had someone that was injured, to send them up and help them work with us. So that tells you,
Yeah.
that tells you how far we've come.
when are you planning on,
I will know more the 1st of March.
so do you think it'll be like April, or you think you can put it to kind of whenever?
Right now, I think we're looking at May, and it depends on if it's one or two procedures, Jeff, that's basically what
Okay.
I'm waiting to find out.
And then, I mean, you're talking about as far as when y'all retire, you haven't said for sure that you are or aren't you?
I think Butch and I both will probably go around February of next year, depending on the circumstances.
So when we know that kind of stuff too, if we work something around with while you're gonna be gone and knowing people are retiring, then that's something we can try to address. I guess that's what I'm trying to clarify, all these, the timeline and stuff.
Right. I just, basically, you're gonna turn the whole program over in a year. Whoever we hire to go in Randy's spot is gonna be a new individual coming in learning. And then that individual, if you try to wait till the end, is now gonna have to train 2 people to try to come in and take over. And I think if you could talk with Jesse Hathcock about walking into our program. I think Jesse, has been working and he is a guru on computers and stuff, and he will tell you it is very complex, our whole system, because we're using multiple spreadsheets, which is the other issue we need to address once we get this issue with staffing over with, is a better program to use to make our workload a little bit better. But
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying it might be better if we do get 2 really good candidates, that we do that so that in February of next year, we're not trying to train 2 people.
Exactly, exactly.
That's just me, but if when you and Butch both go at the same time, we could be up the creek.
Exactly, and I will tell you, my plan is February. I don't know what's going to occur, so I've got, with me coming up, so I don't know what that's gonna bring. There's a whole lot of issues here, but,
2 words, hover rounds.
yeah.
Yeah,
But aside from all that, I just felt like talking with you all and letting you know the circumstances is the best way to go. Whatever you decide, we'll do whatever you tell us to do. I mean, that's our job, and we'll do that. But I think you needed to know exactly in the next year what's coming up in this program.
yeah.
Yeah, you can look at some of the stuff that Judge Beadham sent us on adding public defenders and spending public money to help the public defender system and speed things through court. But when you look at the real numbers and you look at 77 federal holds in January, and now we got 47 federal holds in December, we just lost $800,000. So, I mean, that's real numbers. That's real dollars. I mean, so we started a program because we were losing money in the jail. Now we have a program that was making money, and, we can go backwards. But if you don't go forwards, 150 shouldn't be the end. We should be looking at whatever that number is. It may be 200, it may be 300. And we just had how many state prisons that just got shut down?
Yeah,
So, we could have an influx of even more prisoners, so.
If we're looking at it, if we could run the ad, let's see what we get for applications, and then we come back and visit with you and see what we got.
And I would tell you that issue you just brought up about state beds, that's a $6,000 inmate reduction over the last 4 years. 6,000 inmates back in the community. The other thing that they won't tell you that's a fact is now their revocation process for parole, they have to have attorneys there, the department does, and they don't have the money to pay for them. So if you look at parole revocations, and I think John was gonna see a big issue with that, and that's what the sheriffs are talking about.
There you have.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. They're gonna be in the community.
Thank you, guys.
So you're gonna
Okay
run
to
that
go ahead
ad
and
now,
Go ahead and run the ad.
yeah.
so,
Richard, get with Debbie.
Sorry.
Yeah, we need to get somebody in here.
you gonna try to hire
In
somebody
March.
March 1st then? Is that kinda what you're shooting for for Randy's, and then,
He's the hire guy, I'm just a cook.
I think that lady's gonna put it in Word for me. See if she's got that done.
Okay. Discussion of capital improvement list for 2020.
I think I gotta find that email too now. You revised that one about 4 or 5 times. I know, you just, don't make sure.
She couldn't make up her mind which one she wanted. Got there at the top, you just went past it.
So sorry. Okay, well, at budget time, we just kind of put placeholders in for capital. It's that time of year that we want to know what projects you guys are thinking of, so we can start bidding them. Because that process can take anywhere from 30 days to 2 months to get construction started or purchasing going. Right now, cash on hand, sales tax, by the end of this year, we should have, we have 2 million, if you wanna keep a contingency of 500,000. So then the request that came in, we still have some open projects that you can see here. The big one is the landscaping next door. And then parking lots that we had already scheduled to be paid, and Greg can talk about that, should happen this spring. And then we have priority A list, and it's broken down by building. We've discussed some of these before. Basically, the big item there was this building and the HVAC. And it comes down to, that came down to what are we gonna do? With this building, the old jail, courthouse, so that kind of got put off. So I guess I'm looking to you, do you wanna look at the smaller things? Do you wanna look at building to building? Do you wanna figure out, talk about your priorities, what you feel like we should horn in on first? Kind of just an open-ended discussion. You tell me what you wanna do. Another big one that we're working on right now that's still out for bid is the phone system. I understand that's gonna get pushed off. There's several hundred, not pushed off too bad, but the bids due in because there's been over 100 questions asked by different vendors that still need to be answered. So I got a feeling that's gonna be put off till March for sure.
Did somebody else look at the house building, the old house building?
And that fell through.
Yeah, that,
Okay. I think we need to look at getting rid of it, and
yeah,
unless you all are wanting to
No.
keep it for some reason, or you got any ideas for it, otherwise get rid of it. We can actively work to market it, sell it, whatever.
Are you thinking list that in real estate or?
Put the for sale sign in the front yard. See what happens.
that's kind of what I mentioned to Greg, is
If there's
maybe.
anybody interested in it. Most of them that would be interested are probably gonna have their own realtor anyway, so they can bring it to us.
Yeah, I had a couple calls while we had it under contract, so, from realtors who had people, so, but I think we do need to put a sign up that says for sale. I don't really want to lease it. I had Larry Cobb in yesterday. He said if we find a tenant, then he would buy it, and I'm like, no, we're not in that kind of business. I just soon sell it.
What's broke right now, Greg, that has to be done in the next, I mean,
We're
now,
looking at,
but this year, basically?
Carnegie's, the elevator needs to be mod. I've brought up the grade because, A, the parts are sold, they're obsolete, they're getting obsolete. That one we would definitely put out for bid, even though we do have a contract right now currently with the company. See who would be the lowest and best bid on. I know what we need to do to it, so it's not gonna be that hard.
Is 87 gonna cover that then?
That was the number I had got originally from the previous company that was maintaining it.
Pretty confident in?
Should be pretty close. Clock and Bell, we talked to, I gave you all that
Yeah.
furniture in front of you, and that was a company that talked to Jeff and Mark and Chris before when they were looking at fixing the clock. The guy brought up some good things about the bell house, to make sure it's not wearing through its holder. A lot of the mechanical over there has got a lot of slop and linkage and stuff. It probably needs to be looked at, replacing it and fixing it. If you want to keep it the old style, or we go to the new style, which is right there in front of you. Wouldn't hurt for the clock mechanisms that's over in that room, probably for somebody to come in that knows what they're doing, to clean it real well and lubricate it real well. That's an option. That's just a number I put there. I don't know how close that would get to any of that, to be honest with you. I might get a company in here from Ohio, they're out of Ohio, to come in and look at it and give us what we need to do to it. Grease trap printer's done. HVAC in this building, until we figure out what we're putting in here, there's no sense of doing anything. Public Works, that definitely is a priority that should probably get done with HVAC. Put a split system in their computer room so they can get the door closed and keep the dirt out of there. That was one of Brian's big, when he saw that HVAC was on there, to get that room control for temperature and keep all that dirt from getting in there on the servers and stuff. Garage doors, that's the back building. The back building is having the same problems as the front building. When we redid that with the rusting of some of the piers and stuff, and doors are just coming apart and sitting with the openers. Adam Street, depending on what we want to do with it. Of course, pickup truck for me to replace the one. I was looking at doing a pickup and a cargo van, but after talking with Tyler Clark out at Public Works, him looking at my truck, and might just think about putting a flatbed on it. And he said we probably might get through another 3 to 5 years, which is about another 40,000 miles on it, which it's got 130 now on it. Keep that for the hauling the heavy stuff, dirt and rock and stuff that we do there. Some of it we do during the summer. Keep it. I've got a 20-year-old backpack blower. Probably should just buy it, not even put it on capital. Replace one that's 18 years old that's on its last leg. When I first started here, they had bought a small trailer with the heavier equipment that we've been putting on it. That trailer's breaking down. It's good for using for surplus, we gotta move refrigerators or stuff like that, we'll keep the trailer for that. Then providing a new trailer, we must put the organizers on it, that way we can keep all the lawnmower equipment on it. That way it's all in one container spot. Floor machines, I'm gonna hold off on those this year. I think we're okay with what we got. The only thing, I didn't put it up there, I was looking at another floor machine to replace the old one we have over at the jail, that's down the bottom, it's not working very well. Couple smaller hand backpack blowers.
Do you currently have a replacement plan for the floor machines? Like, do you get one every year or
Problem,
whatever?
I was trying to do one a year, but don't need it. If we go to the new flooring system, I'm hoping within 3 to 5 years, I won't need those anymore, because we won't have the buff floors. Get away from the VCT, go to the new floor like we put at the health, at EMS, where else we put it? Maybe even do it this year, juvenile, replace all that VC that's wore out and colored and damaged down there. If we go that route, I won't need the floor machine, that's why I'm trying to hold off. A lot of the floor machines, when I first got here, had 2 stickers on them, one was a county sticker, one was a state sticker. So I'm sure some were bought at surplus and brought in. We've maintained those, cleaned them up real well, and they're still working for right now, but if they go out, we'll need to replace. That's why I'm not trying to replace a lot of stuff, because if we go to new products, new zero products that I call them, we won't have to purchase a lot of new equipment, because it's a lot easier to clean floors. We just buy a floor machine instead of a burnisher and a scrubber to clean the floors all the time and re-wax them, which saves money on wax, stripper, and everything else.
So would juvenile be the next place you would recommend doing flooring?
Yes, because their floor is wore out. I got tile popping up all over the place. And
That's the original floor, isn't it?
yeah, that was
Yeah.
floor 93 when it was rebuilt.
Yeah.
We've already replaced the
Where's
carpet.
that at on this list?
It's priority B.
It's a B.
So really, it probably should move up to A,
It's,
or no, it's still B.
we can move it up, depending on what you guys want to do. I mean,
I'm asking what needs to be done right now that's a no-brainer that we have to address so that it either doesn't fail and cause more problems later, or,
right now, what I would recommend, and we can come back and visit this later, is elevator upgrade for Carnegie Building.
okay.
I'd go ahead and do Public Works, their HVAC, get that up, so we can, their equipment's so old, even by putting new equipment in, we're gonna save money out there. I need to look at the garage doors in that back building again, see if maybe we can get another year or 2 out of that, but that's gonna be one of them. Without knowing what we're doing here at the annex, or to over at Adams, what's on the maintenance list, that's probably what I do for right now. The recorder sheet, like chairs and stuff like that, so that's,
God, I'm tired of hearing about chairs.
Oh, those are the cheap part of this.
I know, but
what's that?
it's just,
Oh, recorder's office, chairs and kitchen sink and stuff. You know, we might as well not do the kitchen sink until we figure out what we're doing with the building.
What about the mower and powder brush?
Well, we're doing all this new concrete. I hate to keep taking the scraper blade over top of it and chew it all up. If we bought the new mower, we could finish mowing everything. Don't have to rent nothing out to anybody else. We maintain the equipment, which if, at the rate we're using the equipment, we're not gonna wear something out for 15 to 20 years, which by then, is a good useful life out of a mower. Push mowers, if we get 5 to 6 years out of those, we're doing good. We get a brush, we can brush off the snow, we don't tearing up the concrete. Public Works has asked if we do get a brush, if they can take it out to the county and run their asphalt or parking lot out there, sweep it all, which that's what it's for.
Are we doing exposed aggregate, Chris, on the
Yes.
sidewalks? Okay.
We've got 2 pieces of equipment down there we can trade in. But I don't know how much we get for them, but, or just sell them outright. Larry can keep saying, oh, you're gonna get a new truck, why don't you get a snowplow and a clothes spreader? I don't want that, where am I gonna store it? It's just as easier to have them come up and spread the salt now as it is. Scroll on down a little, please, Debbie. Let's go to the B's. One thing, I'm waiting on Aaron and Alan to call me back on the health building. Was it 4 weeks ago, Chris, we had a leak on the roof? Whoever did the roof the last time, instead of using a heavy gauge flashing, use light gauge flashing. A lot of that's starting to rust up there. We've already made the repairs. So that might be one we have to push up. And if we do that, we want to paint the building and make it all look spanking brand new. Prayer, like I said, is a B. Needs new cabinets in the kitchen. Needs new, I call it, it's a 3-compartment heating table for the food. Of course, I got flooring on the detention side. That's a rough number. One thing Bill asked me to put on there was paint his walls before he left. No, that's not gonna happen. He'll be gone in another week or 2. Courthouse, elevator grade, do we upgrade that old elevator? Or do we wait until we add on to the building? Or whatever we're gonna do with the building to make it where we can get an ambulance cot in there that'll lay down? That's another $6.5 million question. I don't even know if that'll touch it. Of course, just Carnegie's. It's gonna need flooring and painting, depending on what we go back in that building, or if we even keep that building, after we, depending on what we do with 209 and this building. That might be Kristen's domain over there, we'll put her in Carnegie and under her.
I like the Carnegie building. That's a neat building.
There's just a lot of questions we need to figure out what we're gonna do. I know Chris and I have talked about several options for 209. Do we keep it the way it is? Do we knock it down and then come back up fresh? As much as, now that we've got everything ripped out of there, and I think all 3 of you guys have been over there and walked in it, we can pretty well see where the water's coming in the building now. Trying to address some of those is gonna be tough, because on the back side of the building, we're right up against the other building there. There's no way to get really any machinery in there to dig down. Do we knock it down and put a 2-story structure to get everybody in there? And put just a shell on top of that for future? That's an option.
How much would that cost?
Rough guess, probably $200 a square foot, depending on how big you go. You should be able to get it built for that. Like Chris and I were talking, tear it out, maybe 30 to 50, depending on which we could haul all that out to public Works where they wanna build that site, it'd be good fill. Just questions of what we wanna do, where we wanna go, and how much we wanna spend.
Yeah. Well, Larry gave me prices, the Dancer's Alley is appraised at $104,000, and then that house up on the hill there is $83,000. So, either one of them is,
One thing I did
What's
not
that?
put on there, that wasn't a big fan of commercial buildings having it, but now seeing a lot of our faucets and
Are those being listed now? Hmm.
now that,
That doesn't mean she's selling for that.
is needing to look at probably putting water softeners in all of our buildings. Just from fixtures being chewed up, and calcium and lime and everything else. Just even EMS the other day, we had to replace the kitchen sink. It was all just chewed up from the lime and the stuff. I don't know what that would cost to do the health building, EMS side, Prayer, then try to find a place to put them, that's gonna be the other place, problem. I'm sure we can find places to put them, we just have to bump, do a little wall, crazy plumbing to do it, so. One thing I also put in front of you is, the generator we moved down to Prayer. That unit's 10 years old, and needs, about $1,900 worth of repairs done to it. Just repairs to be done because of age, belts, hoses, coolant, little stuff like that. Block heater, new battery and stuff like that. That's where we're at. Discussion of the roof at the jail, the new jail. I have talked to the company yesterday, Debbie and I talked to them yesterday. They called me back this morning. They will be going over again, taking pictures, and they're gonna be writing us up something for that to give to the insurance company. He is still a firm believer that even with small nicks and tears, with what the substrate is underneath, heating and cooling is just gonna rip more tears open that we can't see in the future, because that slate just makes it, you know how rubber is, you pull it over time, it'll start tearing. So he is working on that for us to get that rolling. I missed anything.
And things will come up.
And things will come up.
yeah.
Have new, all new things here. So I guess if you guys agree that we should work on the elevator in the Carnegie building, we can work on bidding that out. And if you're ready to do the HVAC at Public Works within that building, if you're ready to at least bid that out and see what they come back as. And then we can look at some of these other smaller items if you want. And then meanwhile, it really comes down to your all's priorities. What are your priorities? Are we worried about making room for the fourth judge? Are we worried about one building versus another building?
Fifth judge.
Huh?
Fifth judge.
Fifth judge, I'm sorry. Fourth, got fifth. We just need to, and then maybe hire an architect to come look at all of our buildings, to see what we can do, what options you have, if that's what you wanna do. Because it's kinda hard for a layman to look at a different building, it is for me, to find out what you could do in that space. So, you tell us.
The elevators didn't need to be probably looked at for a while.
I think that elevator is a 63 or 64 model.
Yeah, I think we probably ought, I think we've gotten,
And it gets used every day quite a bit.
yeah, it's,
It just seemed like one of the things that's waiting to fail.
yeah,
And if it fails, it's gonna be
Yeah, I would do that. I would do the HVAC out of it.
That would put one of the things, that'd be on my priority list, and then, Public Works, he said there, HVAC, are you gonna have them on some kind of deal where the thermostat controls it, so like on weekends when nobody's there, it's not running at
Yes, sir.
full blast?
Yes, sir.
Is that just for the office, or is that
Be off side, yeah.
just office only?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna do the office and then a crossover where they do the signs. But if you look at those units outside, I don't know what's holding them together.
What do they heat over there in the sign shop?
That's where they make all the signs for their computers and stuff they've got computers up there, so I'm assuming they need to keep it cool there in the summer.
There's an office,
And we,
yeah.
And the meter, yeah. We don't have to do it, that's fine. I was looking at everything that's going on.
same type of system that's in juvenile.
No,
Different.
as much as I'd like to put one of those out there, I can't feasibly, it would just be a regular, standard system. But heat pumps with gas backup instead of electric backup with what they got now. It's, propane is so cheap right now, it's like giving it away. They got so much on the market, it's flooded. It ain't gonna go up, it's probably gonna go down.
I'd like to take a look at Adams Street property too, and
Well, so the note there says budgeted in general fund, and that 1.5 that's in general fund doesn't really have any restrictions on it. So you can use it for that, you can use it for anything, but that's just kind of what we were thinking was somehow moving forward with whatever the plan is over there.
Is that why our investments went down $1.5 million?
It's just the flux of money right now.
Right.
So we get a lot of our income up front.
We had a big payment to, the city on,
Projects.
yeah, Dublin. So it was almost $1 million. Because even though we don't pay for that out of general fund, it's coming out of that consolidated bank account.
Yeah, we need to figure out if we're gonna keep the building as it is at Adams. And then we probably ought to go ahead and tuck point it and seal it and have it ready when we figure out what we're gonna do here and over there.
so it's still leaking. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's still either out of foundation, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I thought we did something with that.
No, we haven't done anything, just other than we stripped everything out. Now the roof needs to be
Sprayed the mold,
replaced.
didn't you? Didn't you spray the mold, or?
Yeah, we
Clean
cleaned
the
all the
mold
mold up out of it, got rid of all that, but still we got work coming in. Everything we marked it, we pretty well see where the water's coming in now. It's coming in on the back wall between the two buildings and then the alleyway. Majority of the water, the water's coming in, and then where the two planters up front are. The roof has no warranty on it, even though it was done 5 years ago. Rooftop units are shot.
see, sooner or later, we're gonna have to do some major stuff over at the courthouse too, so that's what,
I think we need to have a standalone meeting for talking about what we're gonna do with Adams and try to, I mean, cause we can talk about it for the next hour and a half.
Yeah.
And we still have stuff for health to talk about.
Yeah.
They've been sitting there for 2 hours
Okay.
patiently and
Well,
haven't
it's-
thrown anything at
It's
us.
more than just Adams, it's facilities in general, it's a long-range plan to try to address this, and then this, and then this, and to lay something out, and try to do it in a sequence that we're not redoing stuff, or we're not
Yeah, we're not
changing
reinventing the
things,
wheel.
so.
And, you know, we're gonna have to look at the new law enforcement center and, you know, how much longer those rooftops are gonna last over there.
John's got that money.
Okay.
Let's make sure you were awake.
Oh, no, yeah, that dates back.
So
And
if
then,
you guys want to try to find
On what?
I don't.
On a
On the
master plan,
facility.
Oh,
your options.
I don't.
I think we're gonna have to work with
Not at
some
this
elected
point.
officials at this point too and see kinda, and we've talked about it before and then it kinda stops again. And then we get it going and then it kinda stops again, but,
I just didn't know if they
I mean, I agree maybe the facilities overall, but, I mean, Adams Street is sitting there empty, we need to figure out, we at least have to get it fixed and waterproofed. Cause otherwise it's just gonna get worse.
yeah.
If you're talking about maybe taking it down and starting over,
Yeah.
I don't know if we can afford that, because I think the courthouse is gonna take priority over taking that down and building a new building.
I think you're money ahead.
I
Yep.
kinda agree with Chris on that.
I-
By the time you get everything tore up, you're probably gonna spend $60,000-$70,000 trying to get it outside sealed up.
So, I mean, it's a great timing to talk about this, to finish this 5-year sales tax and to be ready for our next 5-year cycle. And the master plan is gonna affect all of that, so.
So are there things for sure you guys want to work on now? You wanna do the Carnegie elevator and the HVAC at Public Works and at least get those in the process of being bid? So you can see what they're gonna actually cost?
Yeah, I'm fine with those two. I'd also like to take a look at some kind of, maintenance on the clock. Some preventative maintenance, just check it out. I know you gave us some,
That's the
Work
company
here.
that approached me, yeah, and that said they
Um,
worked with you and Mark and Wrigley.
Yeah, I don't know. We had somebody come in at one point and fixed it, didn't we? You had-
yeah, I don't even know if he's still around or, I mean, I'd have to dig up his information and see if he wants to do it. I mean, it was very reasonable what he did it for. He just cleaned things up and got it going again, so. I'm not mechanically inclined, so I gotta punt the ball to somebody else on that.
So is that something you wanna put out bids for?
You maybe contact the gentleman that helped us before and see what he maybe recommends. Cause he had some very clear opinions on who he would let touch it and not let touch it. You know, we were talking about actually taking the clock and letting them rebuild it, and he said he wouldn't do that either.
So how much do we have to work with here? I mean, because obviously we're working on the phone system. If we do the elevator at Carnegie and we do the, bid the HVAC at Public Works, I mean,
Just going off of the estimates on those three, you know, you have about 2 million, so we're gonna take about 250,000 of that. Based on those three estimates of working on those now.
I thought the phone system was $350.
And yeah, then I was gonna take that off, sorry.
Yeah,
So then that's 500,000.
okay.
Million, a half million,
So leave $1.5 million left or
yes.
or
And
2 million?
depending if you wanna spend that contingency too, you know, that's just a placeholder.
Oh, are you working off that top portion up there? What's,
Basically, this is the cash on hand.
yeah,
This is additional income we're gonna receive yet this year.
right.
There's some bills that we know we're gonna have to pay. We have some left on the parks, some left on the other computer stuff besides the phone.
So parks, we set aside a certain amount at the beginning of the 5-year period for parks.
Yeah,
That's what's remaining out of the 5 years. So you guys need to work with the parks committee or whoever and determine if there's something in particular you want to spend that on. But that was money set aside in the original 5 years for the parks.
that doesn't include the money that they get in their parks budget.
Right, this is separate.
I just zero that out. They don't need that.
Well, it's in the brochure.
Huh?
It was in the brochure, I'm just saying.
It's just teasing.
And then computers is Brian's list and items that come up during the year for computers. So any kind of servers or
phones though, isn't that something that, like I'm gonna have to
Sheriff
for
should
my-
pay for, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be paying for some of it, I mean, because I have a majority of those phones, right? I mean, that's gonna be coming out of my budget,
That
correct?
works for me.
Well, no, I think that's fair, I mean,
Yeah, that's good. We can do it that way. And we just, yeah, we can do it that way.
I think that's fair to do it that way, I mean,
And by the number of phones, yes, they probably have to,
yeah,
because when we went over there, it doubled, so I know.
sure, yeah, so like, EMS, myself, we both have sales tax, we should be able to offset some of those funds, I would think.
Would help.
And it may be more than the 300 and some thousand.
So, just in general, I mean, obviously, if we spend a lot of money this year, I mean, if we were to spend another $1.5 million based on, other than those projects we've outlined,
Well, and you need to include this first section here, the 267 is money that's already encumbered of that too.
oh, okay. So say we spend another $1.25 million, then the next year we'd only get the 885 coming in. I mean, if we basically spent it all down. I mean, we'd still have a $500,000 in contingency, but,
Right.
which doesn't leave you a lot to do, a whole lot of anything.
Just remember though, we're getting to the end of that 5-year cycle. We try to keep the expenses together with that. So if the sales tax would pass again, which we hope it would, you would start a new 5-year cycle of sales tax at that point.
Right, but then you're still only gonna get the 885 or a certain percentage above that maybe, so.
Yeah.
Or if sales tax went down, we could get less.
Or you could change the percentage. It's not a very popular thing, but you could change it.
Right. But $1 million a year doesn't even get you very far.
No, when you look at some of these projects that are ultimately coming, whether we can push them down the road or not, but, you know.
So we'd have to,
6.5 million.
Right.
Courthouse.
but we'd have to look at spending some of these, our investments or some of those reserves. We'd have to look at spending some of those down in order to complete some of the projects.
Just
Depending
remember
on where you
when,
wanna take it from.
when you're talking about the cash that's in the bank at the moment, a lot of those funds are restricted for certain purposes. So, you know, road and bridges funds can only be spent on road and bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Assessment fund is for the assessment. So when you look at that total dollar amount in the bank, the only portion of that it has no restriction at all is what's in general fund. Because even the capital improvements are spent on capital improvements, so even though that number looks really huge, the only portion of that has no restriction at all is the 9.5 that's currently in general fund.
But we do have a reserve policy that we try to keep reserves because, you know, something happens, we gotta be able to pay the bills, so. For 6 months to a year, we like to keep it.
Mhm.
I mean, if we don't spend some of those reserves, there's no way we're gonna get some of these projects done.
Other than going to.
Issue bonds, yeah.
So do you have any smaller items on the list that you want to tackle at this time?
I'd like to have a plan for how we're gonna accomplish some of this stuff going forward, try to lay it out by year or whatever, and then we can try to pick and choose some of the small stuff later.
And these are just things that were asked for during the budget process. You know, I think there was a copy machine actually purchased. I've got the invoice right here that needs to be paid. I need confirmation from you before we go forward on any of these other purchases. Because just because they asked for it didn't mean it was getting approved yet.
Right.
But that one did happen, so and I do have the invoice for it, so I don't know what to say about that, but these other ones, you wanna give me yay or nay? They'll be coming I'm not sure what this circuit one was again.
They have recording devices in some of the courtrooms, like electronic recording, that she needed upgraded or updated because it wasn't going to support the software anymore.
And then you can see the other ones that the reporter had listed on theirs, and Greg talked about the sink and the cabinet, if we're planning on doing something different. Let's not get into big purchases. We understand that pre-trial is potentially getting paid out a lot, as of the end of the budget cycle, that came up. And, we do have these other sales tax, or these other, departments here, EMS, what their budget was, I'm not sure where we left that, if they're just gonna go ahead and start purchasing their capital stuff, or want them to wait too. The sheriff has some capital within his budget, he, definitely has started buying some of the stuff too, that he had already told people he was gonna use it for. But we did put a hold on our capital, so we talked to them.
Should the B project. Right there.
Go ahead and get Jessica started on the.
Yeah, let's
HVAC,
just do,
and
yeah.
you guys ultimately can say yes or no when the bids come in, and then on the elevator.
Yeah, and we probably do need to have a standalone meeting.
I'll call it when we get back.
And you let me know what day and time you wanna have a standalone, and who you want to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, and the sheriff kinda has his own list. So I guess, he knows what the dollar, when you run out of money, you run out of money, right? Kinda same with EMS, we can give him a bottom number. What other ones did we have that we need to address like sooner than later? Is there anything? I see chairs up there, is that? We see chairs every time though.
I know. And then Jessica keeps selling chairs, I'm like.
The only ones I see is the recorder keeps.
I thought we just got some for them.
They asked if I should come.
Okay.
There's lots of departments that would probably come to and ask for that, so I really need one too right now. Ours just keeps going down, down, down. And you go up and then they come down, down, down.
Maybe we should try to get a full size.
Well, they're on state contract, well, yeah, just have them stored. Greg would kill you if you don't have the storage.
Yeah, where you get the storm at?
Your building.
Negative, Johansson.
Sorry, I got keys. I got a big area that's not being used for anything.
The
yet.
pattern is full.
So, and then we're gonna put a sign in front of the old
Yeah.
health department to sell.
Yeah,
For sale, see Jeff.
for sale. We'll put Debbie's number.
I don't think you want me doing it, cause I'm gonna charge a commission. Cause I am a licensed real estate broker, so I probably need to stay away from it.
Yeah. That's all it will be today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wanna talk about anything else?
I'd say if anybody's interested in it, they just need to get them a realtor and bring us an offer and we'll deal with it from there. because they need to have somebody representing them anyway.
Jeff will put that in his article, and they'll come out of the woodwork wanting to buy it. Thank you, Jeff.
So I don't care if we put this on the agenda again next week or 2 weeks, or if we revisit it. But we do need to look at the master plan, kind of when we plan on going with it, and keep moving with it. There's just so many different ways you can do it. I mean, just between knocking Adams Street down or keeping it.
It all
That's-
comes down to what your priority is.
I need a new office.
Okay. You do, that's your priority?
No, I'm just keeping it. But I do need a chair. All right, I'm teasing again. But yes, I agree, it is.
I got some
a
folding metal
priority,
ones. Yeah, okay.
Bright lights.
That's-
Next week, you want me to put it on there, or 2 weeks? 3 weeks? Or a standalone meeting?
I think probably a standalone meeting.
I
would
think
be
it's
better.
standalone meeting, so that we don't have to have Christie and staff sitting there for 4 hours.
I'm okay with that.
We do it every 2 weeks until we get something figured out, I don't care.
What about the generator? Just go ahead and get that done.
Yeah,
Hey,
doesn't do any good if it
if we
doesn't
need a
work.
force.
Well, we didn't really say that.
I-
We had 2 things, right, Debbie? So Greg just asked about the generator, about doing the repairs or maintenance on it, so you just go ahead and do that one too, Chris?
How much was the total?
1,900, you said
1,900.
something?
819, something like that.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, it's a.
Doesn't do it any good to sit over there if it doesn't work.
It works.
Oh, it
It
works.
runs.
Yeah, it works.
Oh.
It just needs
Yeah.
some, it just needs some TLC.
Okay, so Debbie add that one to it.
Do,
My back skill is the best.
John needs a new chair.
His best wears out. No. I'm saying if you put a bunch of chairs in the interstitial there, I'm not gonna say they're gonna be there in a couple days, I'm just,
Yeah.
we'll put it on gov deals. Random chairs.
They don't sell.
Yeah.
Okay,
No closed session, no?
yeah. Anything else before we go into closed session? Nope.
The only issue with those chairs, if you did it that way, as soon as you buy them, they're under warranty, so if they say.
I move we go into
Yeah.
closed session, section 610-021 of the revised statutes of Missouri. Responses to bids and negotiated contracts, section 610-021-12.
Second,
Roll call,
Sam?
yes.
Jeff?
yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Greg, do you need this? Is this your
Yeah,
good
it's
thing to
got
come
you
and
guys.
say?